Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our today's session. And I'm Beibei Liu, CEO from NovaDAX. Also, today we have a special guest, Joaquim, from BitGO. And our today's topic looks very serious but very important, is how to safely store your crypto asset. And as an exchange, we always set the highest priority of security for our customers. So it's very important we invite Joaquim here to share the approach, the best practice to secure your asset. So for the beginning, Joaquim, can you introduce a bit yourself?
Sure. First of all, Pei, thank you for having me and for organizing this great event. So my name is Joaquim Sastre. I'm Director of Sales and Business Development here at BitGO. BitGO is one of the largest crypto custodians in the world, and we also provide financial services and infrastructure for institutions in the digital assets ecosystem.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. So the first question will be related to the context. A lot of customers, no matter retail customer or the institutional customer, in a lot of cases, they are exposed to the risk. The security of their asset is under risk. Can you explain a bit about what kind of risk they will probably have?
So there are a number of risks around operating in an exchange and holding the assets. The main two risks I would say are one, losing their assets, of course, and secondly, not having access to their assets at any given moment. So the way exchanges and other digital asset platforms that send out crypto, et cetera, is through different wallet and digital asset wallet infrastructures, right? The general way a normal exchange would work is by providing Omnibus Wallets, what we call Omnibus Wallets, which are basically wallets that commingle all the digital assets of the clients, right? And those same wallets are used to essentially receive digital assets from the clients and send out. The main characteristics of these wallets is that the end user doesn't have control over the private keys of those wallets, right? So that means that the end client will have to rely on the seriousness, the security procedures, the regulatory status, et cetera, of that exchange provider to be able to access the coins. So there's a big difference around holding digital assets on an exchange, where the final user depends in one way or the other to have access to those digital assets, and in the contrary, there are ways also of having your own wallets with also different wallet providers or with your own wallets to store those assets that you have either bought or sold in that exchange. I would finally mention that this doesn't mean that exchanges are not secure, not reliable at all. What I would recommend in this sense is to operate with an exchange that is secure, that is reliable, that is in one way or the other regulated, and that really gives you that comfort to operate. At the end of the day, an exchange, the exchange's main business is to provide liquidity, match bids and asks, right? Buy and sell orders, and that's what they do best. So that would be my consideration in this topic.
Thank you. So next question is a bit basic, because in NovaDAX we have a lot of inexperienced customer. So in order to let them understand better, could you please explain what is the main difference between hot wallet and cold wallet, and why those exchange they use cold wallet can serve better the security concern?
Absolutely. So the difference between what we generally call hot and we generally call cold wallet is the way the private keys are held. Okay, just as a very quick summary of how a wallet works. Let's imagine we have a mailbox at home. Okay, where we have the address of the house, which is of course public to everyone. Anyone can actually deposit in that mailbox, right? And we also have the key to the mailbox, which is only in our own possession, and we are the only ones who can open the mailbox and withdraw, take what is in the mailbox. Okay, so the difference between hot and cold mailboxes or wallets is that hot wallets are private keys. Okay, so the keys that open those kind of wallets are stored in one way or the other online. In other words, connected to the network. Okay, the cold wallets, of course, would be a wallet to which private keys, the keys that are able to sign the transactions to open those mailboxes, are actually stored in what we call cold storage premises or devices. In other words, devices that are not connected to the network and are actually generally very well secured and safeguarded in different places. So that's why it's so important to take into consideration how the exchange that you use manages all this hot, cold wallet infrastructure, right? Generally, how an exchange would work is that it's a way in which they use both kind of wallets in a way that they might have a very low percentage of all the funds in hot wallets to provide the liquidity needs to their clients at any given moment, and most of the rest of the assets, the digital assets they have, they would store them in cold wallets where the keys are not connected to the network.
Thank you. As the first question, I remember you mentioned two kind of risk. One is more related to the safely stored key. The other is more related to the liquidity, right? I believe this kind of risk you need to balance, because as a user, also NovaDAX exchange, we need to always balance. Sometimes we need to liquid the asset in a faster response, because the customer, they need to liquidate their asset, but also we need to guarantee that we safely store the asset. Could you explain a bit how can BitGO balance these two requirements?
Absolutely. So following up on the exact point I was discussing a moment ago, the way generally exchanges work in order to provide those two things you were mentioning, quick transactional ability and activity, in order to provide liquidity and security at the same time, is basically by using an infrastructure where you have both hot and cold wallets coexisting together. So the exchange would hold, let's say, an approximate number, 10% of all the digital assets that they hold in hot wallets, that enable them to provide that quick liquidity without having to wait for assets to be withdrawn from cold wallets. And then they would have the other 90% of the assets standing in cold storage wallets, which apart from providing cold wallets that have the private keys in cold storage facilities not connected to the network, it also provides more friction when withdrawing from a cold wallet to a hot wallet. So basically, the process would be you would receive the digital assets into the hot wallets, depending on what balance, if it's 10%, 90%, or whatever balance you need in order to meet the liquidity needs of every day, you would move some of the assets to the cold storage wallets, and then you would just be rebalancing every day depending, again, on how much you want to have in your hot wallets and how much you want to have in the cold wallets.
Thank you. And you talk about the mechanism, how cold wallet works. And the next question is related to, since there are a lot of options available in the market, so for the end customer, what kind of aspects you will suggest the customer should check before they choose which cold wallet they should use?
Absolutely. So there are a number of different cold wallets in the market, right? There are cold wallets that can be held in your own hardware device. Okay, there are companies that sell you a very secure USB device where you can actually store those assets. Okay, those are called hardware wallets. And of course, since that's in a USB device, that would be outside the network, not connected, and therefore would be considered cold storage. The bad news about that is that you as an individual or as an entity need to make sure that that device is safeguarded in a very, very secure place, right?
Yeah. And sometimes maybe people will forget where they put that.
Correct, exactly. That's a big setback, right? There are also, just for general knowledge, there are also wallets which are held in paper. So these are basically public keys or public addresses, which are essentially that address that you would put in your mailbox to know where to deposit, and also the private key used to withdraw from that mailbox in a paper, generally in a QR code. But in the first years of the crypto space, there were wallets that were literally written down. The alphanumeric string which composes the private key was actually written down in a paper. But again, the bad part of that is that, of course, you need to safeguard that paper, and of course it's kind of more challenging and it's easier, to destroy, etc., etc. There's another version of cold wallets, which is generally what the industry is using nowadays, especially exchanges like NovaDAX or other serious and large exchanges out there in the industry, which are vaulted wallets, right? This essentially means that you would have literally physical vaults, generally under a lot of security from video, fingerprints, etc., in either bank vaults or former military premises, etc., where the servers, the large encrypted secure servers that would hold those private keys would be deposited in these big vaults. And every time you wanted to make a withdrawal, in other words, sign a transaction, there would have to be physical people going into the vault, extracting the key, signing the transaction in an online device, and this is essentially the most used and generalized way of using cold storage today in the crypto industry.
Thank you so much. So about BitGO, let's talk about BitGO. And so how can BitGO differentiate from other relevant products? What kind of unique technology or unique infrastructure BitGO is applying?
Sure. So BitGO has been in the crypto industry since 2013. Okay. We essentially, in terms of wallets, would provide two main types of wallets. One of them is the software as a service infrastructure, the commonly named, as we discussed before, hot wallets, and the cold storage qualified custody wallets, right? Our founder and CEO, Mike Belshi, was the person who came up with a very famous and very well known and very used, let's say, technology or setup for wallets, which are the multi-sig wallets, multi-signature wallets. This essentially means that we here at BitGO, we use mailboxes. So this wallets that I compare to mailboxes. All our mailboxes or all wallets have 3 private keys, okay? And 2 of them are required to sign transactions. So you multiply the security by a lot when you are actually using this multi-sig technology, okay? On top of that, each one of these keys, each one of these 3 keys is sharded, okay? This one of these 3 keys, we kind of cut them down with Shamir's secret, a very commonly used cryptographic method to shard these keys, to cut them down into pieces. And in order to reconstruct each key, we would need a certain amount of those pieces in order to be able to reconstruct the key and to sign a transaction. So adding multisig plus sharding already brings a lot of security to the space. Another big advantage that we have is, again, that we can provide a commingled, combined service, not only to exchanges, but also large financial institutions, asset managers, hedge funds, etc. We can offer them the combined hot and cold wallet setup, which means that they would have as many hot wallets open in their BitGo account. These wallets can be actually connected via API to their own platforms, so they wouldn't need to create an entirely new system or entire new app or entirely new web in order to use the BitGo services. These hot wallets would be used to facilitate the in and out crypto gateways to and from their clients, the same way a bank would receive fiat funds and send out fiat funds in an automated way through their systems. And in addition to that, we would offer them the cold multi-sig wallets, which are handled by a totally different entity called BitGo Trust, or one of our qualified custodians, regulated custodians that we have in several jurisdictions around the world, where actually this BitGo entity, this regulated custodian, would hold those 3 keys of each wallet in our own bolted premises, all cold storage, of course, and we would be the fiduciary responsible of the funds, which is a very important concept out there, especially in the financial industry, right? There are a lot of regulated companies that actually need a third party, right, a fiduciary, to hold the assets. And also on top of that, we offer an insurance policy included in our kind of product suite, which is also a big differentiator of our product line, since, again, in order to serve financial institutions and financial companies in general, the insurance part is a very important part of their business, and security procedures, due diligences, etc. Just to finalize, what we're doing right now at BitGo, apart from providing these different wallet infrastructures to make our clients' lives easier, is that we are essentially providing additional financial services on top of these, basic hot and cold storage custody services, which are essentially trading on the one side. Okay, we are the first the first liquidity provider that provides liquidity directly from cold storage wallets. Okay, so from wallets are, which keys are actually stored.
For me, that's the most attractive feature. Yeah.
Yes. So for the people that haven't been around a long time here in the crypto industry, that has been something very much demanded by the market, being able to have liquidity and have access to liquidity without having to put your assets in a lot of different hot wallets around the world, in different jurisdictions, etc. So we provide that access directly from cold storage and insured, of course. We also have opened a prime brokerage business line where we essentially lend and borrow digital assets and USDs, mostly to institutions and large partners. And we also have another business line, which I believe will be very, very powerful, which is called our portfolio and tax service line, which will essentially facilitate the life of the people who work in finance or accounting and reporting by bringing together all the exchanges, liquidity providers, et cetera, different providers in a digital asset ecosystem, and being able to create reports, tax reports, and any kind of analysis reports in one only platform, which would be BitGO. So as you can see, we're working very hard, and we are expanding products pretty quickly.
Awesome, sounds great. And you mentioned a very important keywords as regulation, and also there are some features relevant to regulation like insurance, the tax report. And how will you see the trend of the regulation in crypto industry? And you can mainly focus on the synergy between the security and the regulation requirements.
Sure. So that is a very, very, very broad question, right? And of course, that is a question asked by a lot of our clients who have been already a long time in the industry, and also new clients that are coming in, in the recent months into the industry. The truth is that regulation is very different depending on the jurisdiction. Okay, we have countries like the US, where right now we have the OCC opening a new custody regulation for the entire country. There are several states that have already been regulating the custody of digital assets and also trading, liquidity, et cetera, like New York or like South Dakota, where we do have, as BitGO, trust entities in both states. There's also jurisdictions like Japan, which are pretty advanced. Several countries in Europe have been pretty, early into the market. Now we are seeing Germany with BaFin regulating the custody business and also the liquidity side of things. Also France. So, for example, in Europe, all this regulation is starting in big countries in the last few years and months, while we have the US, which have been looking into this many more years. So it really depends on the jurisdiction. What is most important, in my opinion, are two main things. First of all, we can already see the appetite of the market, and I believe that the regulators have already said to themselves, okay, this digital asset industry is here to stay. We probably won't be able to fight against it, so let's just make sure everything is done correctly, safely, and let's protect the final user, right? Which is, by the way, why regulation is here, right? In the entire world. We sometimes forget that regulation should protect final users, right?
Yeah, actually that's their purpose and of their existence. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not just to bring more work to companies like ours, Bay, or bring a big burden to the market. So I think that change of mentality is very good and it's positive. There are different ways of regulating, of course, and I think we're in the correct path in generally most of the largest jurisdictions, but still there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of education to be done with regulators to make them see the entire picture, right? The second thing I would say around regulation is from a final user perspective, and as we were discussing before about wallets and about using a regulated exchange, et cetera, regulation helps the final user to find and to have comfort of finding an exchange or a custodian or any kind of digital asset service provider that is in one way or the other controlled and goes through the necessary processes that the regulator makes them go through in order to protect, at the end of the day, the final user. So what I would say is that it is very important to make sure that any service provider you use in the digital asset space, please try to look into how they are regulated, in what jurisdiction they operate, and that would bring you probably 85% of the comfort. You would probably need to figure out the 15% final, right?
Absolutely. The end customer definitely need to invest their asset in some well-regulated entity, because no one wants to lose their asset suddenly in a random day. Yeah, and
exactly.
So the last question is for the end customer, retail customers, because you talk a lot about how BitGO and also the cold wallet solution help the exchange to have better position in regulation and also earn the credibility. Let's talk a bit about the retail customer. Is it necessary for them to use cold wallet, or they just need to invest in the exchange with cold wallet? What would you say to the retail customers?
I would say that's a very personal decision to make. Okay, it really depends on how much you value having direct individual self-access to your own funds. Okay, as we were explaining before, the main difference of using a wallet or a wallet in an exchange, or an exchange holding your assets, is that you're not totally independent, and that is the truth, right? Let's be totally open. If you are a small investor, and you have just a small amount of your portfolio invested in crypto, I would say that just finding a serious regulated exchange or liquidity provider is good enough. If you are looking to invest larger amounts, you might want to actually have the same setup as the actual exchange would have, right? Where you would have some of your portfolio in the exchange to be able to buy or sell it very quickly, and therefore not be out of the market if there's a big bump in the or rise in the price of the digital asset you hold, and probably use a qualified custodian, a third party like us here at BitGO to protect your assets, or even hold a physical device. I would say, yeah, that would be my main advice. Also, we mentioned this before, but it's important to reiterate it. Holding your assets in a physical device or even in a paper, you need to be very comfortable with that.
Yeah, complicated.
Right?
It has another risk. Like I said, some people just simply forget it.
Exactly.
And cannot find it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your valuable sharing, your experience, your suggestions. That they are definitely helpful. Thank you again, and I think that's all for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Bei. Thank you very much for having me. And again, thank you for holding this this event. I think it's great for the industry, and I'm here to help and anytime. Okay.
Yeah, let's work better to make this industry better together. Thank you.
Let's do it. Thank you.